All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I will now call to order the April 14th work session for Sequim City Council. And before us, we have our fabulous Parks and Public Works departments. And I don't see an agenda on the formal agenda, I guess you could call it. So I guess I'll just take it away, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There really isn't a formal agenda. The purpose of tonight is to have a dialogue about a specific topics. For tonight's meeting, we're going to be talking about transportation and parks. In 2 more weeks, we'll be talking water. In 2 more weeks, actually 4 weeks, we have a break there. We'll be coming back and talking to you about our sewer system. And then finally about our rates. So there's no decisions that get made in a work session like this. It is a conversation. Our purpose tonight is to talk to you about public works and what we do on those 2 areas. I'd like to start off by talking to you about the organizational structure. What does public works? Who are we? And how many people are in the public works department? I know we're going to go to the next slide sooner or later. There we go. So it's a little bit of a delay. Just a reminder, as well as to let people who may be watching remotely to the discussion tonight, the Public Works Department reports directly to the city manager. We have 43 staff. That doesn't include our part-time seasonal that we pick up. We have the largest operational budget and largest capital budget as the largest department for the city. We're broken down into a series of different disciplines, if you will, groups. Administrative services, that is led up by Amy Doherty. She's the one running the presentation down there to my right. Our streets, SIB, and sewer are both managed by Ty Brown. He's the nice gentleman sitting in the middle. Water and WRF fall under John Christensen. He's not here. Well, he's officially not here, even though he's lurking in the back. And he wants to see how this goes because he's next in the docket for the next time. The engineering team is managed by Nick Dostey to my right, and Parks is managed by Hannah Merrill at the far end. Everything we do can be wrapped up in an understanding that the Washington State Growth Management Act requires cities to update their comprehensive plan. You've already had presentations and discussions on that already, so I won't dive into that too deep with you. Just to state that the SQUIM comprehensive plan is a requirement of the Growth Management Act. Within that, there are required elements. They're shown to the right of the screen. The system plans are where the rubber hits the road to a degree, and Public Works is really responsible for 5 of those essential plan elements: capital facilities, utilities, transportation, essential public facilities, and parks and recreation. Tonight, we're going to talk about our system plans and implementation. How do you go about getting the things done that need to be done? As a part of that conversation, though, it's important for everybody to understand that we're not just about what is only in the plans. There's the care and feeding of our assets and infrastructure, and there's an awful lot of work that goes into making sure that we get the longevity out of the investment that the community has trusted us with. Tonight, we're going to talk about transportation and parks, as I have alluded to a couple of times. We're going to give you an overview of our transportation. We're going to talk about how we do our conditional assessments, how we maintain existing infrastructure, where do we find the money, and our capital improvement plan. On the parks, similarly, we're going to talk about where our parks are, how many we have, how much we have as far as parks goes, how we maintain the existing infrastructure, what are the opportunities for funding on the park side, master planning and its key component with parks, how that is critical to be done on each park so that we can go after that funding. And then we'll give you a highlight of potential future CIP that we're talking about doing. On the street side, I want to point out that if you talk to 10 different people about what constitutes a street or a road, and believe it or not, they're actually, if we are unincorporated versus incorporated, streets are typically defined in cities, roads are outside, even though I think it's a bit of a nomenclature that really doesn't mean a lot. But if you ask a lot of people what their definition is and what it looks like, as you can see on the 3 pictures here, a street/road can take a multitude of different configurations. It is basically a means for transporting people, goods, and services throughout our communities in support of our communities. They are official designations as been recognized by the Federal Highway Administration, State Department of Transportation, local jurisdictions. So that we're all talking the same language when we're talking about streets and their classifications. We have major arterials, minor arterials, collector, alleys, and trails, multimodal. And then we also have a level of service that meets national standards. If two transportation engineers are talking to each other about an intersection, you might hear them talking about the level of service is a D or the level of service is A. Those are different designations. Level of service is A, B, and C, pretty much free-flowing traffic. D allows for a minor amount of stoppage, and F is the lowest free-flowing traffic that you get. However, it is one of those kind of like ideal situations on state highways because you get the most amount of people through on a throughput. It sounds very counterintuitive, but it's maximizing the use of the roadway. So now you know everything you need to know about classifications and definitions, and I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
Thank you. So as Paul touched on, we as a city currently maintain 5 classifications for streets: arterial, collector, local, neighborhood, and then our alleys. So what does that mean? How do we classify these streets here? The driving factor for how we classify our streets comes down to an acronym AADT, Annual Average Daily Traffic. Now, that might sound similar to average daily traffic, something you might have read on a traffic impact analysis, or you might see data collectors getting your average daily traffic. So what's the difference? When you collect an ADT, it is a short-term planning number, meaning that you have X amount of cars on a road for an event, say irrigation festival, or some form of local gathering where you want to know what that temporary traffic influx will be for a weekend or several days. The AADT, Annual Average Daily Traffic, broadens out the scope of how you view that street being used. And it doesn't necessarily remove those temporary peaks, but it puts them in better perspective. So the way I would like to compare it to is when you look at a heartbeat monitor and you only look at the beat activity, it looks pretty hectic. You have the line going up and down, but if you look at it across the whole, say EKG, you can see that everything is very normal and where it should be. And then over time, say through exercise, your heartbeat rises, you can see those larger fluctuations. So that's how we amortize and long range plan for the growth of our streets and how we classify them currently in our city limits. So for arterial, what does that mean? You can see there's major arterials like State Route 101. We currently don't own that, but it does run through our city limits. And then we have a more minor arterial like Washington Street. Another arterial we maintain is Squim Ave. So you can notice a little bit of a pattern. Those are A to B streets, right? They bring you in and out of town or in and out of a district, right? Arterial artery, it gets you to the main district or zone. Collectors are meant to either connect arterials or connect neighborhood and local streets and funnel traffic to your arterials for quick transport. Arterials typically have an AADT of more than 8,000, and you can anticipate to see speeds in the 30 to 40 mile per hour range. Collectors have about 10,000 or less, right? Which, as you can astutely recognize, that it's larger than the arterials, but the speeds are lower. You would see 25 to 35 miles per hour because you're getting more of that local daily ADT traffic versus the AADT traffic. Next, we have local. That's 1,200 trips or less of AADT. And you can typically expect to see 20 to 25 miles per hour. And then we have neighborhood, which is less than 300. And again, 20 to 25 miles an hour. When you're thinking about the way someone travels, typically they would go either from an alley or neighborhood street onto a local street, onto a collector street, then onto an arterial to head out of town or go to our downtown district. So some numbers for you. We have about 122 lane miles of roadway. That's different than centerline miles. Lane miles are directional. So if you travel on streets, all directions, east, west, north, south, in city limits, you will cover approximately 122 miles of roadway. We have 62.1 miles of sidewalk, and we have 8 traffic signals. 6 of those traffic signals have brand new cameras that we've discussed previously. The other 2, Priest in Washington, has a similar camera that was updated a few years ago. And the only signal we have that is still on a looped system is the Lee Chatfield intersection there at QFC. We don't get too many complaints about that one, so it is going to be upgraded to cameras, but it's lower on the priority as we address higher priority issues with our signals, both traffic and pedestrian signals. We have recorded a total of 569 crossings, that's pedestrian crossings, with 200 of them being marked. And we have just over 1,600 signs inventoried of our over 3,000 in city limits at this time. We've put priority on regulatory signs, being stop signs and speed limit signs, making sure we have those mapped out, GPS located, making sure that we're compliant with the MUTCD. And then the next 3 here are all of our pedestrian and multimodal by the numbers. And all of these are independent. So we have 1.7 miles of shared use pathways that is outside of our 62 miles of sidewalks. Shared use pathways vary from 8 to 10 feet in width and carry not only walking pedestrian traffic, but bikes, scooters, tricycles, anything you can think of besides around that area. Yep. And then there's some stretches of it along West Squim there in front of some developments. We have 5 miles of Olympic Discovery Trail. Olympic Discovery Trail is ADA compliant and is also considered a shared use path. So the 1.7 miles is outside of that 5 miles of the ODT. We also maintain 12.2 miles of bike lanes and approximately 674 streetlights. And as of right now, I believe known streetlights that are out are around 4.
Yep, that's correct.
So we have a very good ratio when it comes to streetlights and pedestrian safety on being known where they need to be replaced and turning that around as quick as we can, assuming we have the needed equipment. Conditional assessments. This is where we start getting into the master planning and the capital planning. Currently, we maintain a pavement condition index, or PCI, for all our streets and alleys. I'll dive into more detail on that in the next slide, but this is the very technical, hands-on, eyes-on portion of how we assess and plan for our capital projects and our maintenance. We hire a consultant as of right now to come out and perform the standardized both state and federal assessment and assign a number 0 to 100. The next condition assessment we do is civic reporting. This really does kind of play into the shorter term aspect of maintenance, people reporting potholes or issues with sidewalk, driveways, drainage issues, and we investigate those. And if it's a fix that we can do seasonally, like pothole filling or dig out, we address it, we schedule it. And then we address it. But if it's more long-term, then we make note of it and we fold it into our capital improvement plan. Also in the long-term planning, getting input from local organizations like our Squim Wheelers. They were very interested in our ADA transition plan, which I'll address shortly, but also in just multimodal activity, safety concerns that they have. And so we meet with groups like that to fold in projects and concerns that they would like to see or they would like us to consider when we go into our capital improvement plan. And then we have crew reports. The crew know the streets better than anyone else in the city. If they have problem areas, they're going to the same spot to pothole, dig out, fix sidewalk every 2 or 3 months consistently, especially after winter. Now we're going from a maintenance issue to a capital issue because there's something beyond our current standard of maintenance that is not being addressed. We also fold that into our capital improvement plan. So all of that, just in our condition assessment, goes into our long range planning. And then we have additional documents like our ADA transition plan that was recently complete. It is now a federal requirement. We completed ours proactively, just because we saw that it would be a requirement coming down the pike. We're working currently on our parks and facilities. Those are not a requirement at this time, but they do improve grant application scoring. So we're in the process of doing that. Our transportation master plan is a state mandated document. It also ties into our comprehensive plan, and that helps plan out all our transportation projects and feeds our transportation improvement plan. Our asset management program through Cartograph is a self-assessment and management of our assets, specifically streets, and that's where we feed our PCI data and operation and maintenance activities to better define what repairs we're doing, how much they cost, and whether they are effective or not. And so we're currently building our Cartograph asset management, incorporating our PCI to develop our operation and maintenance program for things like chip seal. That's a new program we'll be looking at jumping on next year. As far as the condition of that and when to apply that, I will be diving into that into the next slide. So all that goes into our transportation improvement plan. This is a state required document, and this feeds into our state transportation improvement program, which we are required to be on in order to qualify for certain grant and loan funding. All those above documents then feed into our spending plan or capital improvement plan that we will be presenting to you toward the end of the year. And that just reflects how the transportation specifically is getting folded into our other utility projects. So pavement rating and condition. When someone comes out and takes a look at our streets, you can see on the left side, they do a visual inspection of pavement distress. So things like cracking, quote unquote gatoring, which is the technical term, which is a more localized, concentrated cracking, typically due to failure in subgrade. They look at potholes, they look at rutting, that's the picture on the lower left. And then they also look for things like raveling. The most common condition that we have that lowers our PCI score is raveling, and that happens in neighborhood streets. You can see on the right side here, our scoring is 0 to 100, and there's brackets here on how we define our maintenance and capital activities. 85 to 100, which is where most of our arterials and collectors lie, is 12.6 miles. That's routine maintenance, sweeping, striping, a little bit of crack sealing, but it really is a low effort block to be in, but you still need to maintain your streets with proper drainage so you don't go down into the next bracket, which is our 70 to 85. This is where preventative maintenance comes in. This is where you'll find your dig outs, you'll find your more aggressive crack sealing. You might even consider a slurry or fog seal on the 70 to 85, and we have about 18.5 miles of those kinds of streets. When you get to 50 and 70, that's where you're looking at rehabilitation or refurbishing. Those include chip seal. They include your typical mill and fill, where you go and grind out 1 to 2 inches of asphalt and replace it with new asphalt. You don't touch the subgrade. And we're currently looking into other things we can potentially do as far as, again, slurry seals, fog seals, things like that, to make sure that we can just extend the life of the asphalt as we have it now while we identify funding for where, if left unattended, you get a score of 50 or a condition index of 50 or less. And that's where we look to get reconstruction. So a project you'll see here soon that had a rating of 50 or less is Priest Road. We'll be completely replacing that through a grant fund from Washington all the way to the city limits just on the north side of Jenny's Meadows. And now for our ADA plans. We brought our transitional ADA plan to you most recently, and you saw the big price tag of $49 million over a projected 20-year period. And that's pretty humbling. And so we sat down, we ran through the proposed projects, which that $49 million was put together, assuming all consultant work. And we worked on identifying where we can have cost savings. And we're currently achieving that through things like our capital improvement plan. We'll be replacing 61 ADA ramps here very shortly as we go out, as we're currently seeking advertisement approval to go out for that project. We acquired through a grant what is actually called our sidewalk sucker, which is a vacuum piece of equipment that allows panels of sidewalk to be lifted, and Ty will go into this, and regraded to work on sidewalk deficiencies. Also, our signals, our pedestrian and traffic signals, the push buttons, fixing those through grants through our capital improvement program. So we're working on getting that timeline shortened, that cost to the city down by doing a lot of that work in-house through capital projects and through our maintenance crews. And then recently we just got a contract together to do the same sort of ADA analysis for our facilities and our parks. Again, this is not a requirement yet, but by having this plan and adopting it, we can score very well on our grant applications.
I had a quick question, Nick. The 38 bus stops, is that for transit bus stops and school district bus stops?
They're not under our jurisdiction.
Oh.
So
Thank you, Nick. Well, engineers build the roads and maintenance gets the longevity out of them. So I'd like to just jump into a few maintenance activities. Start with sweeping. We start with our minor arterials, sweeping them once a week before moving out to the neighborhood collectors that we sweep once a month, depending on leaf litter and debris. Pavement patching. Currently, crews dig up and patch 40 areas a year. This is due to sunken utilities cuts or soft spots in the roadway, causing the road to settle, or alligator and crack, or potholes to form. So pavement markings. This is everything from thermoplastic crosswalks to reflective turtles and street striping. Currently, we stripe roads and parking lots once a year, and we replace thermoplastic crosswalks every 3 years, kind of depending on how much wear and tear they get. Chip and seal. In 2026, engineers will be piloting a chip seal program. Before the chips get spread, maintenance crews will prep the roads by crack sealing and performing dig outs so that there's a good surface to bond to. Let's see. Sidewalk repairs. As you see in the picture with the excavator, this is a machine called the sidewalk suckers Nick talked about. We received this machine from a grant we applied for. This machine works as a vacuum. It suctions tight to the sidewalk. Crews will go in and cut the sidewalk, then lift the cut piece out so that we can regrade underneath it and remove the roots and set the panel back down. Sidewalks raise up due to the heat or freezing or just roots. Vegetation control. Street crews maintain all city right-of-ways, landscaping, and street trees. We spread mulch, prune trees, mow grass, and maintain all irrigation systems. Signs. On average, we replace 120 signs a year, depending on damage, funding, or retroreflectivity per the MUTCD standards or the national standard for traffic control devices in the United States. Retroreflectivity is the amount of light that reflects off the sign. Currently, we're purchasing a gun that tells you how much retroreflectivity we have. so we can keep up with the sign replacement program that we're on. Catch basin cleaning. This is done by frequency of buildup, basically from sand and leaves. Some catch basins are cleaned once a year and others every 3 years. The cleaning helps keep pollutants out of our waterways and keeps the basins functioning properly, right? So they're draining and operating like they should, keeping the streets from flooding out. Winter weather response. This is the most unpredictable activity to forecast. Currently, we have 10 snow plows, 1 skid steer, and 2 backhoes that we use to get the snow off the roads. We also use a mix of salt brine, mag chloride, and salt sand that we use to keep the roadways and overpasses from freezing and just to keep people safe. That's it for me.
Sorry, I'm not sure you want questions. You said you like conversation. That winter mitigation, weather mitigation probably has an adverse effect on longevity of the road as well. I'm trying to sort out what causes your most wear and tear. Is it studded snow tires or is it using sand and gravel in the wintertime?
Mainly it's the heavy trucks, the plows. We, occasionally the guys will hit sidewalks, curbs,
Sure.
take off lots of buttons. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just in case you can't hear me. Yeah, we take, so it would be snow plows.
Yeah.
By far do the most wear and tear and damage.
Then sweeping up all the
And then-
grit and so on
and then
afterwards,
sweeping everything up. Yes.
getting it out of the drainage basins.
Yes, sir.
On a really bad winter, we don't call it the snowplow season, we call it the button removal program. Because, and seriously, in other locations where you can lose half or more of your buttons because you can't see them as an operator.
Sure.
And you're just trying to clear things out.
Yeah. Thank you, Ty. It was really good.
All right, so how does the money meet the road? The general fund supports 85% of the $1.2 million maintenance and operating budget. And then we have the Transportation Benefit District, TBD as we call it. It was created in 2008 and it funds the balance of the maintenance and operating fund and approximately 14% of the capital project work. So TBD collects 0.2% of sales tax within the city limits, and it equates to about $1 million a year. After that, we have the transportation impact fee. This is the one-time fee that we charge on developers, and it's supposed to help pay for the new or expanded capital projects that are needed to address that growth. So this is approximately $60,000 a year. And additional funds are available for the real estate excise tax or the REIT funds. These are revenues generated off of the price, the selling price, when property is sold within city limits. We have 2 REIT funds, and both of them generate their tax is 0.25% each. So they roughly generate $400,000 a piece. So that's $800,000 for 25 is what we have budgeted. So everything else is grant funded. So that comes from both state as well as federal. So funding for our 2025 transportation projects will be approximately 74% grant funded. The majority of these are coming from federal sources. The remaining 14% will be budgeted from TBD, as we just talked about. 3% from impact fees, and the balance comes from the REIT and the general fund. So as you can see, we're heavy on the grant funding for transportation. Grants are generally short term, so we get about a 1 to 3 look at what projects have been approved and received funding. And then off of the plans that Nick talked about earlier, we use those to identify future projects that we want to find funding for and then apply. So there's 7 funded transportation projects for 25. They include 3 pavement rehabs. That's a $1.9 million worth of pavement rehab. Those 3 projects are grant funded. We have a 1.2 intersection project, $1.2 million. We have 856 $55,000 worth of curb ramp replacements scheduled. And then we have the start of the Johnson Creek Crossing design and the completion of the Transportation Master Plan. Future years projects are really limited to what we know secured funding is for, which is pavement rehab and ped bike improvements. And then in the lower right portion of the screen where it says future unfunded projects, you can see we have approximately $60 million worth of unfunded projects that we have identified at this time. So, and these aren't projects that need to happen in the next 6 years. They're spread out quite a ways. But there's 12 street projects for 21 million. There's 4 intersections for 4.8 million. Another 12 rehab projects for 17, and then 15 ped bike improvements. So grant funding over the past 5 years, we've received 5.5 million from state sources and about 1.2 from federal sources. Excuse me. Funding was used for West First Street, West Washington overlay project, and most recently the two probably look like one total project, but the North Squim Avenue project, which was actually 2 separate projects. Our current grant funding, we have 4.9 million in current funding award. Of this, 1 project is going to be funded by the state sources, which will cover the replacement of 61 curb ramps. Remaining projects on the list will be funded by federal sources, which includes 16 intersection improvements, those 3 overlay projects we just talked about, and then 3 design projects. And the 3 design projects, those are part of a federal grant called the RAISE grant, which is a 13 agency grant. It covers a total of $16 million in projects. There's 34 projects to be funded by that grant. They are noted in red at the bottom of the table because other municipalities have heard that the RAISE funds have been frozen to determine if the projects align with the current administration goals. So we have concern that we will get that message as well, but we're kind of in a holding pattern waiting to hear. So to keep us going and moving ahead, we're continuing to look at our transportation plan and apply for additional funding. So we have 1 application pending at this time. It is a state funding application for a feasibility study on sidewalks on East Washington Street, and that's from South Blake to Cindars Road. And that also covers ODT, Olympic Discovery Trail improvements as well. We should have an announcement sometime early June. July is our anticipation. And then we will be applying for state and federal funds for projects focused on safety and mobility. The potential projects you can see in the list up there, they include North 3rd Ave Ped Bike, Spruce Street Bicycle Boulevard, a traffic calming study, sidewalk enhancement program, South Squim Complete Streets, 9th and Hammond Corridor, and an East First Street improvement project. So we're working with consultants to determine which projects fit best with the funding source, so we have the best opportunity to get the grants.
Amy, what is a traffic calming study?
Lay down, take a nap. You want to take that, Nick?
Yes. So fundamentally what it is collecting data on an existing corridor to get things like our ADT, 85th percentile speed. If it's close to an intersection, we'll get turning actions, who's actually turning and who's going through the intersection. And so with that data, multiple solutions are analyzed, whether it's raised medians, different striping, presence of landscaping, and those are presented in a report and prioritized for things like how similar are they to other corridors in the city, cost, and then access to funding, or is funding willing to help pay for things like that. So it looks at alternatives.
Question, I noticed on the prior slide that there was a mention of the brownfield realignment. Could you touch on that for a minute?
Yeah, I'm going to take this one. We've been working with the developer who are putting in all the homes out there. They have provided us with a straight alignment and a cost estimate, and we're working with them to get a fee in lieu so that they would be paying us for half that road to be put in, and then we would go seeking the additional funding necessary to do that. I've been in conversation with the property owners, and so they know it's forthcoming. We'll have further conversations to see what it would take in order to straight line that road through there.
And I think I saw it was planned out for many years down the line. So I'm just wondering, like, timing wise, is the development going to happen and then the road's going to get straightened, or is the road is getting straightened first and then development?
The development will occur and they will pay their fee in lieu. We're still, in fact, we're meeting, I think it's tomorrow or Thursday. I can't remember which day this week it is, but we're meeting with the applicant on going over their costs for the fee in lieu. Once we have that, then we'll start the process seeking additional funds as well as permissions and right-of-way necessary from the remaining two property owners. I would say that what has held that project off for so long is the lack of funds. And it's not one of the types of road projects that most of the grant funds we go after would find really attractive. But if we're able to come to the table with a significant amount of money and identification of the right-of-way needs, all of a sudden this becomes more of an attraction where the grant agencies will look at us as a partner who's really putting up a lot of funds. So it could be, I'm going to spitball anywhere from 2 to 5 years out, and then that road will be built. And of course, we're going to see if we can get it sooner than later.
And so there's potential for the development to happen first.
Yes. The funny thing is the development is not actually accessing Brownfield Road. So their requirement was basically to widen a short length of Brownfield Road on the south side closer to Squim Avenue. There was also a requirement that they put another road in further up the hill, which was basically, we deemed it was going to be impractical to do because of the creek and the size of the ravine. So we did a little bit of conversation with them, and where we ended up with, they don't have to dedicate land. They only have to dedicate land up there, but instead they're going to dedicate what we needed for the straightening of Brownfield Road and then the fee in lieu, because they can't build half the road because of the grades that are out there. Mm-hmm. They have to have a pretty significant cut to tie in with 3rd Avenue. Thanks, Nick. 3rd Avenue. I've driven that road so many times, I should know by now. 3rd Avenue. You can't build half of the road within their property with a dedication. We need to do the other half, because we're basically cutting into it in a big V shape. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the better option is have them deposit the money, the fee in lieu that it would take to build that half, and then we'll go after the rest of it and working with the adjoining property owners to make it happen.
Thank you.
Major project completion with the grant funds that we've received over the past few years includes preservation, pavement preservation on East and West Hendrickson Road, Olympic Crest, Washington Street, and East Fur, and then the major reconstructions of Fur Street, as well as North Squim Avenue.
Excuse me, pardon me, Amy. Are you using the mic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not hard to hear.
Thank you.
So this little map makes my heart go pitter pat. City parks and open spaces are community assets. And as you can recollect, 5 years ago, these parks and open spaces demonstrated the importance of park access and coping with global health and economic challenges. People were going outside a whole lot and finding ways to,
be together when they couldn't be together. So that underscores the value and significance of city parks and open spaces just in real time. They provide accessible, safe, and vibrant public spaces for all community members. And according to the CDC and National Rec and Parks Association, parks are essential for staying active. They decrease healthcare expenses and enhance public health. U.S. Forest Service and the EPA recognize parks' environmental contributions, such as improving air quality, managing stormwater efficiently, and reducing urban heat. The Trust for Public Land highlights their economic benefits, which is boosting property values, generating jobs, and supporting local businesses. Parks also cultivate safer communities through increased community value involvement, and in turn that reduces nefarious activities in your community. Investing in parks results in a stronger, healthier, and more resilient city. Park benefits extend beyond the city boundaries, reaching residents of the urban growth area, the county, the region, and beyond the country even. We're so amazing. And this map is showing all of our public parks and open spaces, including the 14th edition, which is the top right little square there. The 14 is the McCord Memorial Park.
Are these numbered in the order that they were established as parks?
No. Good question. In this inventory, our city is a population of over 8,000 residents, and we have approximately 134 acres of parks and open space. And that equates to approximately 16 acres per 1,000 residents. And while that's above the National Rec and Parks Association recommended 10.5 acres per 1,000, it does show that this community values parks. National guidelines also suggest citizens should be within a 10-minute walk of a neighborhood park, and we're well positioned at this time to meet that goal now and into the future. As our population grows, we're well prepared to support both current and future residents with this current acreage of public space. Our community clearly values parks, and that's demonstrated by the generous donations of the community members for parkland, and it shows not only strong support for green space, but also foresight and a commitment to future generations. We have a lot going on in our parks, and we have a maintenance crew that rocks the world. The parks get a lot of use, and the behind the scenes work of the crews make sure that everything is safe and clean and ready to go. Since Pacific Northwest flora is quite, prolific, seasonally they mow, weed, prune multiple times a week. They empty trash, fix irrigation, maintain playgrounds, fields, trails, restrooms, and repair benches and picnic tables. If something breaks, they fix it. If something's tagged, they clean it. For festivals and events, they're setting up, cleaning up, or both. From guide coal to the band shell to the playing fields, they keep our parks ready for action, and there is always something to maintain, repair, update, or replace. Yeah.
Thank you. So similar to transportation, the park's $700,000 in maintenance and operating budget is covered by the general fund. Capital projects are funded by grants, impact fees, general fund, and REIT. Parks impact fees are similar to the transportation impact fees. It's that one-time development fee. And the projected 25 revenue for the impacts fees is approximately $150,000. So quite a bit more than transportation impact fees. We did have an increase in parks impact fees last year. Transportation, I believe, hasn't had one in about 10 years. The real estate excise tax, REIT funds parks projects as well. And then the general fund supports what it has available to support. So as balance is available. And then the remaining is funded by grants. Currently, there is $21 million in unfunded projects identified. So like that 60 million we just saw in transportation, it's about 20 million in parks. Grant funding has historically been used to purchase parkland. We, however, currently have $500,000 in grant funding to support the construction of the Margaret Kerner Playground. This project is actually budgeted a bit higher than that, so we are still seeking additional funds at this time. So as we find them, we'll be able to shore up that actual playground.
Public Works is actively improving parks through both long-term planning and immediate upgrades. We're currently undertaking several master plan efforts. So this year, Gerhardt and Keeler Parks, and in 2026, Dr. James Standard Park will have a master plan, and then McCord Memorial Park spanning 2026 and 2027. We'll endeavor to get those park plans in place. The plans help guide the future vision, layout, and programming for each park based on community feedback, needs, and priorities. The capital improvement projects include an ADA pathway upgrade at the band shell, accessible playground improvement at Margaret Kerner Park that Amy just mentioned, the funding for. We also have development of Centennial Place Park and resurfacing of the pickleball courts. These projects are a mix of long-term planning and improvements that enhance the parks and help us better serve our community.
So to start this evening, I told you that we were going to give you an overview of the transportation program, an overview of the parks program. We were going to talk about how we do our conditional assessments on transportation, how we maintain our infrastructure in both avenues, what the funding is that we know of, and what we're going to be seeking, master planning, long-range planning, and our future CIP, which will be a part of the budget process, where we're going to be focusing on the next year, 2026, with a foreshadowing of anything that we know is going to be likely coming in 2027. So what we have spoken for the last 45 minutes is everything you see up behind you or on your screen. And right now, I'd like to just take a moment to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you about two important programs within the Public Works and to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. That's a fire hose of information, but really well organized and presented, and I appreciate the efforts you put into that. I meant to bring paper and take notes, but I'll do my best to remember. An example of a low scoring road in a scenario that we have here, would it be accurate to say that that might be like West Squim Bay Road as you approach the estuary, the bridge just past John Wayne Park?
That would be an example of our lowest rated road.
That's
Conveniently enough, we will be putting out a contract here shortly to repair that portion from White Feather to southern city limits over the bridge.
okay. Yeah, and I realize that's a short span, but the city limits in there. And then Amy, on the graphs that you showed with the funding, the breakdown of the funding, I'm assuming that it tapers off down to zero in 27, because that's just all the further out we've projected. It isn't like we anticipate our funding to stop in the next 2 years, right?
Right. So TBD and impact fees will continue as their taxes that are done here within SQUIM.
Yeah.
Grant funding is the question. We're always looking for grant funding. And then once we are awarded funding, there's sometimes a lag. So right now we will, we have a couple of grants we're applying for this summer. By the time the decision's made, the money's awarded and actually given, and then the project gets planned, it's usually a little while. So we should know midsummer what 27 looks like a little better. At this point, yeah, we should be pretty close to done with the projects that we have funding for. So we got to stay ahead of it by a couple of years.
And that same sort of curve, you just would expect to move down the calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, Council, I'll just add to that. You may remember, because we showed it to you a lot, the 5-year capital improvement plan that had the different columns or whatever, and we colored them different. And the further out you got, the more unfunded it was, and it just became, well, of course it's unfunded. It's 5 years. Who knows what's going to happen? And I think, with Paul and kind of a new look at that, like 3 years is probably enough. Otherwise, we know it's going to be unfunded. We just got to get there and see where the city is and where the grants are and everything. So
Totally
we're looking at it a little shorter now because it's more realistic. Yeah.
And then whether or not I don't know who might know the history of this. I'm just naive. Why are there two different REITs of exactly the same thing? Is it just historically, chronologically? We had one and that was a good idea, so we added another one? Or?
State law allows us
those opportunities. And if you want further information on that, I would ask our wonderful finance director to come and provide more information on that.
So it isn't just a sequential legislative thing. 1 year we did it and 10 years later we added another one. It's just they gave us permission to do 2 and we're doing 2.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
I would like to say one thing about our Transportation Benefit District is when that was initiated in 2008, it's a 20-year life on it. And we're in 2025. So we are looking at what options we have to include bonding of some projects. If you bond the projects, then the TBD remains in place until the bonds are all paid off. And we've been looking at sidewalks and other improvements and what we could do if we had a certain amount of money supported by the TBD annual revenue. We're not there yet to bring anything forward, but it is something we're talking about. We're also looking at what would it take to initiate a new transportation benefit district when this one closes out and sunsets. So there's areas there. It sounds like it's a few years away, which in our world is imminent, which means we need to be paying attention to it now and thinking now. I think one of the takeaways I would like you to walk away with here is that transportation and parks do not have a consistent, stable funding source that pays for what we need. The TBD is a good chunk of change. It's $1 million a year. As you heard Amy say, 85% of that goes towards operations and maintenance. And a small percentage actually goes to the capital program. If you're looking at some of the size of some of our projects, even a relatively small one, $2 million. So that's where grants are so important. This year, we started the year by having Megan put together with Amy a list of all the potential grants across the whole realm of what we do and when they're going to be due. And we're starting conversations and have been talking about, okay, if this grant comes here, what projects do we think are going to be suitable for it? And that's part of what Amy was showing you on the transportation side. On the park side, there's not as big arena, if you will, of grants available. Most of it's state funding, and it's very, very competitive. So we put our best foot forward on doing that. I want to highlight one grant that we got this last year. That was the first time I think we've gotten that, and that's the Opportunity Fund. We were successful in getting a $555,000 grant from the Opportunity Fund that Nick and his team are going to use for preparing plans and specs for a new pressure zone that will enable us to support the growth of an additional 2,400 homes thereabouts. Without that, we couldn't provide the water and the pressures necessary to support them. So it's good news. Across the board, we're looking at grants and other sources of fundings everywhere we can. We're lifting that rock and putting that other rock in this place and so on. We continue to do that, and I just want to make sure that you as the council members all know that there's so much going on behind the scenes that you're not even aware of. And that's okay. That's the way we like it. We kind of have a common understanding in the public works that if we're doing our jobs right, you don't notice us and you don't notice any problems. And that's across the board. And we like that. All right. Thank you. If there's any further questions, we're happy to talk to you about them or answer them.
I might remind the council that our residents and businesses both, I was happy to hear that they consciously recognized our parks and our streets and not only ranked them high, but also ranked them high in terms of importance. Their cleanliness and kind of the grooming and the maintenance, I guess, is what you'd say. So they are aware, and particularly, I think, compared to wherever they came here from, other cities just don't really have what we've had. But it takes a lot of work, of course, to do that. But it's nice that our residents recognize that and rated us high in the recent survey on that.
Amy, I wonder if I could ask you to back up a couple slides to one of Hannah's where the city map that had the parks in it. Yeah. What strikes me, this isn't so much a question as a comment, and it's just common on every time we look at this silly map of the city limits of SQUIM, of the revenue that we generate to fund these budgets come within that dark blue line, right? And there's just a whole lot of use of those resources that come from outside those blue lines. And I realize that's, like I said, it's not a question, it's a comment, but it's just it's worth to me to have that kind of on the record, that that's highly observable.
And just something for the council to keep in mind is sometimes the comments that come to you or concerns about certain aspects of parks or events aren't coming from your city residents.
Yeah.
They're coming from outside.
Yeah.
When
And
it comes,
I like the fact that people that live in the broader area consider SQUIM a high degree of ownership of SQUIM, which is a positive, I think a net positive. It's just got to figure out a way to generate some revenue from it. So.
well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you all for your attention tonight. If you feel like you would like to see the next presentation modified in any way, because next we're going to be talking about water, and our water system is of vital importance to the whole community. So we're going to give you, I guess I shouldn't say turn the fire hose on, but we're going to give you a lot of information. If it's too much, or if you want to focus us to focus on a particular aspect of our water operations and our capital, if you could either let me know directly or let the city manager know, he'll pass it on to me, and we'll start modifying the presentations discussions. So again, thank you tonight for your attention. And with that, I think we're going to sign off and give everybody back about an extra 15, 20 minutes. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody, for your time, and we will see you at 6. to the April 14th regular council meeting. Just want to confirm that Mayor Janice is online. I can't see my screen for.
I got an email from him and said he would be here. He was going to be here, but he's not here yet. So
Hopefully he's here by roll call.
yes.
All righty. Well, I will call to order at 6:01 p.m. If we would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. And onto roll call.
Counselor Kelly Berger,
Present.
Counselor Dan Butler,
Present.
Counselor Vicky Lowe,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson,
Present.
Mayor Brenda Janice, Counselor Harmony Rutter,
Here.
and Counselor Nicole Hartman.
Here.
And Mayor Janice is online.
Great. Thanks everyone for being here. All right, we're going to move on to approval of final agenda. However, I would like to add committee assignments to 12B, and that would make open council discussion 12C, just because we got some news back from the Clallam Transit System Board. So with that adjustment, is there approval of the final agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as amended. Second.
All right, thank you. Any objections? All righty. Moving on to ceremonial. Our proclamation today is for International Dark Sky Week. Ooh, it's kind of a long one. Let me. Okay. Whereas 80% of the world's population, including many people in Sequim, live under a dome of light pollution, excessive artificial lighting at night that disrupts natural darkness, and may never experience the visual wonder or ecological and health benefits of living under a dark sky. And whereas the damaging effects of artificial light pollution at night blocks our view of stars in our Milky Way galaxy, and whereas the beauty and wonder of a night sky can grow interest, awe, and wonder in science and nature, and whereas light pollution has an impact on the overall quality of life of residents and visitors to Sequim and warrants attention, and whereas the city of Sequim is at the doorstep and entryway to the Olympic National Park, which is one of the best places in the entire country to view the night sky through programs such as the Hurricane Ridge Astronomy Program, and whereas the city of Sequim benefits economically from tourists and visitors who attend programs sponsored by the Olympic National Park and its astronomy programs, and whereas the impactful progression of the Clallam County Dark Sky Advocacy Program is presently expanding, and whereas Dark Sky International's 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting provide a model for Sequim community residents to follow to help protect and preserve the night sky. And whereas, as nature stewards, we can help preserve the beauty of our given natural surroundings in as good or better condition for generations to come, while demonstrating a willingness and generosity to provide for its care. Now, therefore, I am reciting this for Mayor Brandon Janice, Mayor of the City of Sequim, call upon all citizens of Sequim and hereby proclaim the week of April 21st to 28th, 2025, International Dark Sky Week in Sequim in recognition of the detrimental effects of light pollution, and ask each resident to join not only in observing and pondering upon this important week, but also in raising awareness and support for protecting our precious dark sky as a resource. Signed on this 14th day of April, Brandon Janice. And we do have Steve Burgett here. So I'm going to sign this and then I will come do a handover.
Thank you. I was going to ask for 2 minutes, but I already got 2 minutes, so thank you for that. So, but begin with a thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for presenting Dark Sky International with proclamation in recognition of International Dark Sky Week. International Dark Sky Week is a global celebration of the night. It is an annual event occurring in April, coinciding with Global Astronomy Month, during the week of the new moon, when night skies are the darkest. This year, it is being observed April 21st through the 28th. From the darkness needed for restful night sleeps to the activities we enjoy beneath the stars, the night plays a crucial role in protecting healthy wildlife ecosystems, advancing space and exploration, preserving cultural knowledge, and much more. Yet, with the rapid rise of light pollution, we risk losing the natural night we rely on alongside the view of our stars. This International Dark Sky Week, we invite you to join in the activity by taking meaningful actions to protect the night. Whether you're taking the Dark Sky Home Lighting Assessment, signing the Dark Sky Pledge, or connecting with the local Olympic Peninsula Dark Sky chapter, your participation is meaningful and effective. Please join us in the celebration of the night this coming week and throughout the year. We're here to support and assist you protect, preserve, and promote the unheralded beauty of the night sky. This year, as Olympic Peninsula Dark Sky chapter continues connecting with our community, we ask, in closing, the City of Sequim seeks and implements provisions for protecting, preserving, and promoting the existential nature of the night sky. And please connect with us at darksky.org. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we are now moving on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. Before we begin, before we open the public hearing, the clerk will read the comment instructions. Oh, sorry. Oh,
So
open
sorry.
the public hearing for.
I'm so sorry, Rachel. Are
no.
we going to do section 6 first?
Oh my gosh, I completely skipped over it. I'm so sorry. My apologies. Sorry, on to public comment. All right. Thank you for getting me on track. Thank you so much. This is a limited public forum. Individuals providing public comment must not disrupt or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. This is not a forum for hate speech. The City of Sequim supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it does not support hate speech. Speakers are expected to be courteous and refrain from making hateful comments, sounds, or remarks. Any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. The City of Sequim stands firm in its commitment to being an inclusive community and rejects discrimination of any kind.
For individuals attending in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. I will be collecting the comment sign-in sheet shortly. No one has signed up for remote public comment, and each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic, and there will be a timer visible on the screen. A total of 30 minutes, 10 speakers will be permitted for public comment. Please state your name if you are representing an organization and your city of residence. And we have one person signed up for general public comment tonight, and that is Mary Bell.
And people often ask me, what was it like back in those days? Well, there were 400 dairy farms, and so we milked cows for 17 years on Brownfield Road. And this man, Mr. Al Courtney, put together these two books. They're available in the museum and at the library. And they're families that wrote about what it was like at those days. And if you live on a road with a name, that's the family. So I'll just read some of the names. Joe Silberhorn. I think that's pretty familiar. Matriotti, Cinders, Lotzgazelle, Kays, Kerner, Kendall, Mantle, and many, many more. And I think you can still buy this book at the museum. There's 2 volumes. They're wonderful.
And that concludes public comment.
Okay.
Oh, Vicki.
I also have those books if anybody wants to borrow them.
Okay.
Sign me up. I'd love to check them out.
Now we will move on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. Before we open the public hearing, the clerk will read the comment instructions.
Soon the deputy mayor will open the public hearing and take comments. If you are in person and would like to provide public comment, I don't think I'm going to read that part. And actually, nobody's here. No one has signed up for remote public comment, and no one has signed up for in-person public comment.
All right, the subject of this public hearing is the Sequim Municipal Code 3.68, rates and fees, right-of-way. The public hearing is now open. Does the city manager or staff have testimony to present?
Our Deputy Public Works Director and City Engineer will be presenting tonight. Nick.
Before beginning, I noticed that the mayor has his hand up. I don't know if he has a comment before I proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out why my camera's not working, so.
Okay, at this time, I do not have any additional information for the public hearing. I will just provide a brief recap on why we are here today. Recently, when we did a reassessment and analysis of our site construction permit to be more reflective and incorporative for reimbursement and cost coverage for our efforts in both review and inspection during construction, the right-of-way permit got looped into this larger analysis, which is based upon level of effort on an hourly rate for both engineers and inspectors, both city staff inspectors and consultant inspectors. This would put variable costs on the right-of-way just based on it being something simple like a dumpster in the right-of-way when someone is moving or clearing out a home or property, all the way up to what a recent one we just approved, PUD pole relocation and upgrade. Majority of the right-of-way permits that we get are the one-offs of someone wanting to put a driveway in or putting a connection to a sewer or water in. And so to provide some consistency across the board, we looked at our review times and our field times specifically for those smaller right-of-way permits and came up with a cost of $160 per permit across the board. That puts our right-of-way permits, as of me knowing a couple weeks ago, as the cheapest right-of-way permit compared to City of PA and the county. And it, again, provides that consistency as far as what the right-of-way permit is paying for. Should a right-of-way permit require more time, whether in the field or in review, we still have a mechanism to charge for that for the ones that come in that require a little bit more time. Thank you.
Any questions from council? I just have one question about the cover sheet. So it's checked that a public hearing is required for this item. I want to confirm that that's true.
Yes, and this is that hearing.
Okay. I didn't know if it meant this one or like another one, just to make sure.
Yep, it's this one.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to public comment. And I'll still read the script just so it's on record. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. This is a public hearing. All audience members wishing to make comment will be allotted 3 minutes to speak. When it is your time to speak, please give your name, address, and whether you reside within the city limits of Sequim. Please avoid repetitious comments, personal attacks, or comments not related to the subject before the council. The city of Sequim supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it does not support the use of hate speech or offensive language. Any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. And do we still have nobody for public comment?
Correct.
Okay.
Please open it officially
Okay,
though, and
okay.
call for any additional comment just for the record would be wonderful. Thanks.
All right. So I will open the public comment portion. And do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
No.
Okay. I will now close the public comment portion of the hearing. Is there any council discussion? Not hearing any.
I move to
Oh,
wait for.
wait. I need to close the public hearing before we. Okay, sorry. The public hearing is now closed, and we will move on to council action.
Thank you. Ahead of it here. I move to waive further touches and approve adoption of the attached ordinance amending SMC 3.68 rates and fees.
I second that motion.
All right. And can we do a roll call vote, please?
Councillor Berger,
Yes.
Councillor Butler,
Yes.
Councillor Lowe, Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Mayor Janice, Mayor, you can address the council with your vote.
I'm not
He's got a
sure if
pen.
I don't see. Oh, there he is.
Oh, okay.
He said aye. Councillor Rudder
Yes.
and Councillor Hartman.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hi, Brandon. Sorry about that. We can see you. Can you test your audio for us? Nope, we can't hear you. Not yet. Nothing yet. All right, well, I think if it's all right with council, I'll move on to the next public hearing to give you some time to try and fix your audio. Okay. Good luck. All righty. We are on to public hearing number 2. The subject of this public hearing is the SMC 8.36 Flood Damage Prevention Code Amendment. The public hearing is now open. Does the city manager or staff have testimony to present?
Good evening, Council. Excuse me. Purposes of the record, Christina Nelson Gross, City Attorney, Interim DCD Director. As you may recall from this item from last meeting, this is something that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, hopefully I got that acronym right, does periodically, and it's part of the National Flood Insurance Program, and this is part of that update. I'm going to turn it over now to the city's senior planner, Travis Simmons, to provide some input and answer any council questions for this public hearing. So take it away, Travis. Thanks.
So I did listen to your guys' first touch. Didn't seem like you had a lot of questions, but I at least, for the record and for the public hearing, wanted to kind of give a who, what, where, when, why for what we're doing. So just kind of briefly, the who involved in this, and thank you for, let's see, can we go? Oh yeah, and if not, no worries. So the WHO, City of Sequim, and FEMA as part of our involvement in the National Flood Insurance Program. To that end, the flood insurance program is, I guess, what it is, and I will just kind of read verbatim what the FEMA website says, is it aims to reduce the impact of flooding on private and public structures by providing affordable insurance to property owners and by encouraging communities to adopt and enforce floodplain management regulations. These efforts help mitigate effects of flooding on new and improved structures. The program reduces the socioeconomic impact of disasters by promoting the purchase and retention of general risk insurance, which includes flood insurance. So what we have includes mapping and mitigation that lowers the built environment's exposure to floods. So you limit what can be built in these areas, and then you have less need for paying out. So where in Sequim, and then can we go to just the so anyway, I just kind of wanted one that had at least a number of the zones on there, because really, most notably, where here in Sequim that we see it is going to be along Bell Creek and the streams and the coast. But the zones that are most notably, or that are most prominent, are AE and AH, which are the high risk of flooding zones. And then we also have zone X, which is the orange that you see there, which is moderate to minimal, but is outside the 500-year limit. And I'll just circle back to I don't know if it's on this one, except on like the very western portion where it says AE, there's a little red and blue hashed area. This is what is called the regulatory floodway. So kind of think of that as the no build zone. It's got to be it has to be reserved. And then the others are just zones in which these development standards that we're adopting would be applied to. So when, as Christina mentioned in her previous presentation, and that's in the council packet, revisions must be adopted by April 23rd, 2025. So we are right on track with that to remain compliant with the requirements there. So the why here is, why do we want to do this? It's to allow Sequim property owners to continue to have access to federally backed flood insurance. And it's also a benefit for the city, as improved flood risk management could enhance the community rating system, which can actually potentially lower insurance premiums for a property owner. So how are we going about this? We've got a slew of updates to 8.36 as proposed in your packet, most of which were mandated requirements from FEMA. And some of those include updating methods for reducing flood losses, having our definitions be consistent with FEMA's definitions so that our language is consistent, adopting the current maps and the flood insurance study for Clallam County, both of which are available at the city if anybody wants to review them further. Updates to compliance requirements or non-compliance requirements, permitting and process requirements and standards, including habitat and livestock areas, updates to how you can go about getting a variance, development standards, and standards just for coastal high hazard and shallow flooding areas. So happy to answer any questions, but yeah.
Any questions from council? Oh, yeah.
No questions, but thank you. That was really helpful.
Brandon, I now see an audio symbol, so I think we're heading in the right direction. Would you be willing to test it for me?
I think you can hear. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Victory. Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Do you have any questions for Travis
Nope,
or
I'm good.
Christina? Okay. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how excited I got when we were able to hear Brandon. All righty. We will now move on to the public comment portion. And I'll just read the script for posterity. This is the public hearing. All audience members wishing to make comment will be allotted 3 minutes to speak. When it's your time to speak, please give your name, address, and whether you reside within the city limits of SQUIM. Please avoid repetitious comments, personal attacks, or comments not related to the subject before the council. The city of SQUIM supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it does not support the use of hate speech or offensive language. Any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
Not tonight.
All righty. I will now close the public comment portion of the hearing. Is there any council discussion? I'm not seeing any. All right, the public hearing is now closed and we will move on to council action.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Excellent.
I move to adopt the proposed amendments to SQUIM Municipal Code SMC 8.36 flood damage prevention as proposed.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Councillor Berger,
Yes.
Councillor Butler,
Aye.
Councillor Lowe, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
Mayor Janice,
Yes.
Councillor Rudder,
Yes.
Councillor Hartman.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, staff. All right, let me try and get organized here. And moving on to the consent agenda. City Clerk, could you please read the consent agenda?
Claim vouchers totaling $1,606,866.41. City Council meeting minutes from March 24th, 2025. The North Brown Road and East Washington Street Stormwater Retrofit Project, a recommendation to award. SMC 10.08 speed limits, a code amendment. Comprehensive Plan, Public Participation Plan resolution. And junior taxing districts added to City Council Rules of Procedure, a resolution.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
And any objections? Not seeing any. So approved, and we will move on. No general business tonight. Move on to our reports. Youth Liaison, Layla. Doo-doo-doo.
For purposes of the record, this is the Youth Liaison, Layla Sundin speaking. Seniors are planning their graduation right now. So senior ball is pretty much all set and they've moved on to graduation. Exec elections are on the 21st. And then tomorrow, leadership is going over to the 8th grade to talk about incoming freshman elections. The fourth quarter started last week, and SBA testing is the 15th and 17th, and the 23rd and the 25th. Rally in the Alley has an event on the 19th. Or Interact has Rally in the Alley on the 19th. It'll be at Carrie Blake Park, and the Environmental Club is planning on holding a booth on Earth Day like an informational booth, and then choir auditions for vocal ensemble were today.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
How's the flocking going?
You just wrapped up, I know, because I returned all the stuff today. It's quite well. We always lose a couple of flamingos, but otherwise, yeah, we got lots of very generous donations from the community. So, yeah.
Any other questions before we move on? All right. City manager report.
Thank you, Council, and always nice to meet with you. So I sent you a couple of emails today, and one of which, of course, is my city manager report. I'm just going to highlight a couple things on it, but feel welcome to ask me any questions regarding it. I think I'll start with the very last section, or near the last section. It's probably the biggest unfortunate news to hit Sequim in a long time under the police department 8B. As you know, we had a really unfortunate hit and run accident that our police department is very close to and doing a great job with, as are they with the FBI and the bank robbery. So some kind of big events in our city that has really tied our police department up with a lot of extra work and for the good of the community. But those are the big events since really the last time we've met. A couple other things I'll just quickly touch base on since I'm talking about police department. They hosted, along with the city manager office, a really successful tabletop exercise. This is for emergency preparedness and emergency management. We had don't want to go too far into details, but we had the county here, we had fire district here, we had CERT representation here. It was a very realistic drill, and we're just getting better and better at that. And we continue to open up the circle to include more of our community partners in all emergency planning and whatnot. So that's including our big boxes and our other stores and whatnot that really, should be a part of that. So very grateful for John and Mike for leadership with that. Kind of dropping down to the community and economic development section, 3A, working with our comp plan consultant regarding some concerns, I guess I would say, regarding the accuracy and completeness and the timeliness of our comp plan. We're on top of it, but it's work in progress. The Planning Commission will be meeting tomorrow night, and they will be reviewing some of the comp plan that's to the point of needing and accepting some of their input and review. So it is moving forward, but more to come. Under 4, I met with Sue today. She just closed Q1, first quarter books, and we were looking over the graphs and reports. Things are on budget, or we're doing better than she was a little nervous a couple of weeks ago. So it's just the first quarter, and a lot of things are paid once a year in the first quarter. So we'll see how the rest of the year turns out with some of the other things happening nationally. We'll just have to kind of play that by ear. But another good news item out of finance was 4D, and that was we're finally getting closer and closer every week to having our utility meter radio readers working. And so as of last Friday, they were all live. So this is, keeping us from having to go around and read all these meters manually. And so now they'll be radioed up to some collectors on some towers and then back into Tyler. So that's going to save 3 FTEs, 3 days each, to manage. It's not new technology, but it's new for us. So really exciting to kind of get that in place. A lot of work with Public Works and with Finance. A lot of things happening in IT, everything from Oleg went out, he found a Starlink box in his area, went up on the roof to set it up, only to find out it was outdated. He called them and said, why is it not working? They said, well, because it's too old. You never opened it up when we sent it. So he sent it back and they gave us a new one. And that one is now working. So we have some redundancies should we ever have a power failure. And should our fiber ever be compromised, we can still run the city with active internet. Also, kind of excited to move forward with what we call a cyber security vendor. I've seen this implemented in many of the other organizations that I've been working with. This is almost like a secret shopper. You've probably heard of these before, where emails drop in, and we'll just hopefully train staff to be more conscientious about, because as much work as IT is putting into a super thorough and complete firewall, and it's our biggest weakness is our 100 employees, including all of us here, that just are moving too fast and clicking on links and exposing ourselves that way. So anyway, thank goodness we're down now to a point where we're getting ready to contract with a vendor for that. I'll let you know when we finalize that. So other than that, there's a lot of other information on here, but any specific questions that I can answer for anybody?
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you, Matt. Two things you didn't touch on now that stood out to me. 3D, the moving forward with the affordable housing, is that Habitat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, purposely. Yeah, thank you. I purposely kept that out, but yes, okay. That's exactly right. No, that's fine.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good news.
That does sound like good news. And then 6E, the iOS device management initiative, is it?
Yeah, we've been working on this for a while. When I first got here, I'm really an Apple user, and I've seen other cities and other organizations that historically have been Windows kind of be able to offer both. It was too much for the first 3.5 years here, but now Oleg has picked that up, and so we're getting close to being able to be able to offer either platform. I think we're starting with mobiles in the iOS space first, and then laptops thereafter. But he's working on that. But he met with our consultant, and it looks like that could be a possibility. Certainly, it was much more of a priority 3.5 years ago. Now I've gotten so used to the Windows devices, but and the whole city hall and everything is set up that way. A lot of people still don't love their phones, but so that's why we'll probably start with the Apple phone, iPhone first, and then move into laptops. Yeah,
thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions before we move on to committee reports? Alrighty. Are there any committee reports from anybody? Going once? Going twice? I know they're always so riveting. Alrighty. No committee reports. So on to open council discussion. 12A, did you want to take that over, Dan?
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy. Thank you. I'm happy to take that over. Just checking to see if Commissioner Ozias online.
Yes, he is.
Good. Thank you. I sent out a message was sent out earlier today. Hope you had a chance to take a look at it. A bit of a cover item for this cover sheet for this item. You may or may not have seen that the Clallam County Commissioners authored a letter to our federal legislative representatives, 2 senators and Representative Randall, expressing concern for the impact on Clallam County, specifically using real data of some of the policies at the federal level. And it occurred to me that it might be helpful to invite Commissioner Ozias to come and talk to us about that and provide us with any more background that might be helpful for us as we consider whether or not the city of Sequim could add any value to the commissioner's representation to our legislators. The intent of my intent in this is twofold, and please feel free to add or subtract, but to amplify to our constituents who may or may not be listening to this this initiative by the county and express appreciation. Using the real data to communicate county-specific concerns to our representatives regarding the impact of federal policies. And then secondly, to discuss as a council and staff with Commissioner Ozias's input, if there is City of Sequim specific data to add to the appeal from the county and or simply resolve to add our support to the letter that's already been sent. So that letter is linked in the agenda for your reference, as is this cover that I'm just reviewing here now. So I'd like, with that little bit of introduction, to invite Commissioner Ozias to give us whatever background he may have and help us think this through from a city perspective within the county.
Thank you, council member. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I really appreciate the time tonight. Thank you for the invitation. And essentially, in visits and conversations with our senators and Representative Randall 6 to 8 weeks ago, they all emphasized to us how important it was to them to hear from folks on the ground to really understand what some of the impacts of all the dramatic changes that we're seeing in Washington are in local communities. And so that was a significant driver for the commissioners deciding to author this letter. We tried in our first letter to look sort of broadly around the community and call out, recognize some of the impacts that are of concern to us. So that's why we focused on some of the job losses at Olympic National Park, some of the job losses at the Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary, et cetera, and what those impacts are likely to be in our community. One of the things that we discussed at our board level was that this probably shouldn't just be a one-off. And so in additional conversations with our federal representatives, amazingly enough, they are still very interested in wanting to understand what is happening on the ground and what the implications are. So I suspect that from the County Board of Commissioners, our next follow-up letter is going to focus a little bit more specifically on some of the Clallam County specific impacts. For example, there's a lot of changes going on in FEMA right now, and the future of FEMA is very uncertain. And within the last week, it has come to our attention that one of the significant grant programs that FEMA has traditionally operated, called the Building Resistant Infrastructure Grant Program, has been canceled. That's something where the county had a current application and process for that program, and so that's an example of something that's now off the table. And so my suggestion to all of you, well, first of all, I do want to make sure that you know that our federal representatives are very interested to hear from you. And my suggestion would be to think about, have there been implications to the city of Sequim from some of the rapid and difficult to predict decisions that have been coming from Washington, D.C. If so, then whether those are concerns more broadly for the community or more specific to the city of Sequim, they would certainly love to hear about them. And I would be happy to share when the commissioners author our next letter that's more county government specific focused, if we would like to consider making that a joint letter of some sorts and highlight impacts both to Clallam County and to the city of Sequim. We'd be very open to that. But of course, would always welcome you to author a letter that's appropriate for the city of Sequim and what you see as your needs and concerns.
Thank you. That's really helpful background. I think just earlier in the meeting, in a work session prior to this meeting, we heard that there are several projects that were in our in our CP conference CIP. Thank you. that are now in jeopardy because of the threat of the RISE grants, apparently. So I think we do have some things we could add to be specific now, and it's really good to hear that we could perhaps collaborate on future communication as well, both things.
Well, at a minimum, members of council, when the commissioners put our next letter together, I would be happy to make sure and share that with you in enough time ahead of time so that if you would like to consider taking some similar or coordinated action or messaging, that you'll have the chance to do so. And again, if that's not the decision that council makes, then there's certainly no problem with that. But I've spent a number of years conversing with our federal representatives now. I have never heard them ask specifically for information the way that they've been asking in the last couple of months. So with that encouragement, I certainly certainly think that it's more than appropriate to share your position and your understanding of what these impacts might be in this local area.
Great, thank you. I wonder if there's any other comments from council, either directed to Commissioner Ozias or just in general about this.
No questions. Just thank you, Commissioner Ozias, for your time.
My pleasure.
I want to express gratitude to you, Councilor Butler, for taking the initiative to bring this to council this evening. This very, very important conversation to be having at this time. And I welcome this discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Ozias, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Commissioner Ozias. I wonder if there's a future plan to have other entities sign on that are partners in the community, such as like PNNL. I know that there's concerns about the focus of their energy research, perhaps shifting and funding issues there, area food banks, school lunch programs, cost of materials for infrastructure projects, and also uncertainty with the city utilities and PUD in cost of service studies being wildly inaccurate in planning for rates due to uncertainties there in cost of materials. And could there be a letter with several entities signing on in support, do you think?
No, I thank you for that suggestion. Honestly, when Councilmember Butler reached out, that was the first other local elected official who had reached out to foster a conversation like this. I think that's an excellent suggestion, and I would be very happy to reach out to all of the other municipal governments around the county and try and put our arms around what some of their concerns and what some of their already experienced impacts are. And if there's interest in crafting a broader letter that really is representative of the bulk or the entirety of this community, I think that would be wonderful. So thank you so much for this suggestion. I'm happy to follow up on that.
Yeah, thank you. That's very much in line with my first reason for wanting to raise this, is just to amplify this initiative and then see where we could possibly expand it out to. So, well, yeah, thank you. Again, thank you for spending the evening with us, or the time that you have given us. Appreciate that, Mark, and we will certainly stay in touch. I'm going to shift now to just asking council what we'd like to do in light of this. I've drafted a couple of potential motions. One would be simply to sort of resolve, if you will, to wholeheartedly affirm what the council, the county commissioners have done as concerns of our own as well, and or do a little bit of work on drafting something that would be would be affirming, but would also be then more specific for the city of Sequim, that would perhaps be attached to a copy of their letter, sort of an addendum, if you would, to their letter. And I'm willing to work on those things with mayor, deputy mayor, staff, if that would be useful. But it'd be helpful to know kind of what council would like to do at this point.
Yeah, I'm really, really open to that. I really like if council decides to write a letter, I think it would be really important to get like that data from staff. That would be monumental, but also in there, just, yeah, talking about how we, we affirm like Clallam County, we're all in the same boat, and being able to communicate that, I think, is really helpful.
I'm just thinking we don't know what we don't know, so it would be helpful if we knew what some of staff concerns were just by department. Do they have concerns with planning for the budget for the next year and capital projects, and understanding from staff what their concerns are?
I would say I'm in the and/or category. I think that I am open to affirming the letter that the commissioners have put together and signing on in support of that. And I'm also curious to know how this is affecting our city. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm wondering also, because I work in the field of health, the Medicare and Medicaid impacts that were mentioned, but also the impacts of Social Security, because we have such a large retired population that we should really think about those impacts too.
All right, well, I don't mind making a formal motion just because I'm so supportive of it, and I don't mind taking the time and working with staff. So I motion that staff and, if available, mayor and deputy mayor draft a letter with data to support our communications and affirm with Clallam County's letter to get working on that. The only problem is timeline. I'm not sure if staff would be able to do that would staff and I be able to work together and have it ready by the April 28th meeting? I'm pretty sure we can.
My assumption is yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and bring that back on the April 28th meeting.
I'll second that motion if there's no further discussion.
Just following up on your comment a moment ago, Harmony, you said both and, you said either or, and I wonder if you meant both and. If you'd like to send something now that is just a nice strong affirmation of the letter that's already been sent, and work on what Deputy Mayor has just proposed as well. Was that your intent when you said that?
Yes. So she, if I'm understanding the motion I just seconded, so you in your motion, Rachel, did you specified that you and the mayor and staff would work on a letter that was specific to SQUIM?
Yes, and in the motion so in the letter, it would be SQUIM-centric data, but also affirming Clallam counties. Yes.
So, okay. So our motion is going to, if we vote yes, we're going to affirm and sign on that we're with that letter.
It's all in one letter that.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Quick, super quick, like the city of SQUIM, affirms Clallam County's communications sent to our legislators. And also, here is why this is important to us and how it impacts SQUIM.
Okay, I definitely second that motion.
Okay. All right.
Deputy Mayor, may I read that motion back for clarity, please?
Yes.
I direct staff and, if available, the mayor and deputy mayor to draft a letter with SQUIM-centric data that supports our community and affirm the county's letter. and bring a draft back to the April 28th meeting.
Yes. Okay. Everybody's on the same page.
I assume you'll just attach that letter so they don't have to wonder where
Yeah.
it's or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's connected or
Appendix A.
enclosure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Everybody's on the same page. Okay. Any objections? I don't think we need to do a roll call vote, honestly. No objections? Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for bringing it, Counselor Butler. All righty. Let me move on to our, 12B, committee assignments. And I'll talk about this real quick. So if everybody remembers, there was some hiccups regarding trying to get SQUIM representatives on the Clallam Transit System Board. And due to everybody's, time constraints and capacity, Clallam Transit Board ended up moving their meetings to, it's the same day of the month, so third Wednesday. They just moved it from 10 a.m. to noon. So it's a really quick, just like not much difference, just a little 2-hour shift. But that way, Kelly has mentioned that he is available at that time. So I just wanted to make sure that it is formally in the record that council appoints Kelly Berger as the other CTS SQUIM rep. That is my motion. Just that, so I motion that council appoints Kelly Berger as the as the other SQUIM rep on the Clallam Transit Board.
Second.
Any objections or discussion? No. All right. No objections, not hearing any. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome.
All right. Moving on to open council discussion. I really just want to say I feel like such a scatterbrain today, and I really apologize for that. 2025 has been a struggle. And I think we're all feeling it, but definitely, it's catching up to me. So I just want to apologize for my scatterbrain. I feel like my brain feels like mush today.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks. Yeah. All right. Anything else for open council discussion?
I wanted to mention earlier this year, we took some initiatives on the distribution of the naloxone boxes around the city, and that has gone well, not specifically on city property, but the city is poised to adopt that if an opportunity were to come up. But in collaboration with the Clallam County Health and Human Services, there is now a naloxone box distributed or deployed at the transit center, SQUIM Transit Center, and at the St. Luke's Episcopal Church on corner there of 5th and Fur. So those are relatively close to each other, but still it's nice to see that it's being adopted across the city. And they seem to be being used and replenished. At least the one I've paid attention to at the church has been empty a few times, and the next day it's full again. So
They're on the ball.
very much on the ball.
That's great. Any other items for open council discussion? Nothing? Going once? Going twice? Anything from Mayor Janice? Not seeing any hands raised? Okay, I'm sure. Really trying to keep an eye on that. I'll get better about it. All righty. Moving on to planning. So we have the agenda planning meeting, April 22nd at 2 p.m. Is anybody available to go to that? I'll be there. And if you're not able to, it's okay. I won't hold it against you. I think we have people checking their calendars, so I just want to give them a moment. Okay.
I could possibly be there, but I said that last time and then bailed on you. So I will.
I'll put you down for hard maybe.
So if nobody else can be there, then I'll go ahead and take that slot.
Okay.
And let you know if something comes up.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you. We have a work session Monday, April 28th. And I just want to, just a little quick mention, that's my son's 14th birthday. But I will be at the meeting. Oh, he'd love that. So I just wanted to let you know I will be here for that. Work session at 4:30, April 28th. And then we have our regular session, 6 p.m. Just making sure everybody's on the same page. 4:30 work session, yeah. For the water.
Can I
just a heads up
clarify?
for everybody else? I don't get off work until 4 and get back into town until 4:30, so I'll be late for those 4:30 work sessions.
Okay, thank you for letting us know.
Clarify, the work sessions are open to the public, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we know people that are specifically interested in any of these topics, it'd be a good opportunity for them to hear it from the staff's mouths.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And just like the regular meetings, they're always posted. I believe they're posted in the newspaper also and online. And yeah, in the hopes that people can see what we have going on.
I'm not sure if it's posted on the newspaper or not, but I know we posted on the website, the city's website. And then for folks who sign up for notifications, they receive those as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. And for the record, folks can't provide public comment during the work session, but they can always stay and make public comment at the beginning of our regular council session.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, that's it for us tonight. I move to adjourn at 7:02 p.m. Any seconds?
Second.
Any objections? I hope not. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.